Hi, my name's Hayley. This next set of online sessions is about doing research for your projects and how to get started with your projects. We're going to start off in this short presentation just talking about analysing your question and figuring out what it is you've actually got to do. So if you've watched that in some of the other videos, then you might want to switch and skip to the next online session. So the aim of this whole series of online sessions is to find out what your difficulties are in searching for information and to sort of offer you some tips and advice so you can stay in control of your project. So when you get a research project, you might feel daunted by the scale of the task. Like any kind of assignment that you have to do or a dissertation can often feel like there's so much you have to do you don't really know where to start, and there's so much information out there, especially these days when you've got the online web at your fingertips, so you can pretty much access sort of millions and millions of resources. So it sometimes can be a bit overwhelming as to sort of what do I read, what do I not read, what do I need to put in, what can I leave out. So hopefully this section here is just helping you think about where might you start. So what can you do to stay in control of your project? So planning, obviously, I can't emphasise enough how important it is to make sure that you spend a lot of time planning. So planning your time from now until the end of the project. So you might want to refer to the time management section of online sessions if you want more information about that. But also planning out sort of what research you're going to be doing and making a plan for that project in terms of when you're going to be writing it as well. So you need to understand the steps involved in a process, and once you understand the steps involved, it doesn't feel like such a monstrous huge one big task. I've got to write a dissertation. Actually what it is a huge series of steps that you have to follow in order for you to get there, which is a lot more manageable. So you should think about having that clear strategy for undertaking these projects as well, and making sure when you're thinking about what steps do I have to go through, how much time do I have to spend on each step, and how much time am I realistically going to be able to spend on this project. The one word I think that whenever you're doing any kind of project management to think about is scope. There's only a certain amount of things that you can be able to do for any kind of research project. It doesn't matter how long you've got. A 10-year, £10 billion project still has to define its scope. You can't do everything. So with any kind of assignment that you've got to do, part of what you are being assessed on is your ability to be able to figure out what do I have to do and how can I do that well in the word count or the time that I've got to do that. So your project is about information gathering, reading, evaluating and note-taking and then writing. But I'd have another arrow here going back from reading and evaluating and note-taking to information gathering again. It's kind of like a backwards and forwards process there. So you'll gather some information, you might evaluate that, read it, take some notes and do perhaps maybe a bit of planning, so you've got a mind map, but then realise where you've got your gaps are from that. So going backwards and forwards from the information gathering to the reading and evaluating and note-taking. And when you've got a clear idea of that, or you've got to the point where you have to say I need to stop now and start writing, that's when you can go forward with that. But bearing always in mind that the writing is what people most tend to get worried about and think that that is what writing essays is about. Writing essays, writing assignments, writing dissertations is all about the writing, and that really isn't true when you think about it percentage wise. The writing takes up a very little amount of time compared to how much the reading and the research and the planning should do. Okay, so there's some arrows going backwards and forwards and how you might link all of those ideas together. So as you can see there, it's not just sort of a straightforward process with no backwards and forwards in there. So many students do misunderstand what's being asked of them. It's really important that you figure that out. So you're looking at your assignment criteria, your project criteria, and it's if you're doing your own project, that essentially the criteria will be what your scope might be. So when you've got an essay or assignment, that scope is often defined for you, but you might have to do that yourself if you're working on a bigger project. But too many students spend a lot of the time writing in general around a subject area without really considering what are you actually being asked to do. So you must make sure that you're looking at instruction terms and content terms. I'll talk about instruction terms in just a moment because I've got a list of them to show you. You can also download a more comprehensive list of these from this website as well. So content terms are what you will actually be asked to write about. So that's the subject content of your essay. try and translate the question into accessible words. It will help you fully understand your question. It's often like that we know what these words mean in real life, but in academic terms, what do they mean here? And also academics are renowned for using the more complicated version of a word rather than just simply getting to the point. But make sure you think about using your word count to plan your research as well. So again, this comes back to thinking about scope. If you've been given 1,000 words, are you expected to do as much as you would be able to do if you've been given 3,000 words? Well, no, because you don't have the word count for that, and it gives you an idea of either how many topics to put in your essay or how far to go in terms of your description, analysis and critical evaluation of them. We'll be doing more on that subject area in the critical thinking section on this website when we've got those sessions planned and written and recorded. So here's some instruction terms here, just to give you an idea of what we mean by instruction terms. So you're asked to always critique, define, demonstrate, discuss. So it's a good idea to just go over these to think about how is it I'm being asked to write about this. If your tutor's asking you to describe something, then you don't need to go into the analysis. But remembering generally at university that you're always being asked to critically evaluate. So when I'm expected to criticise something, I'm expected to point out weak and strong points. It should be a balanced answer. It doesn't mean you simply just point out the bad points and criticise something. So there's a much more comprehensive list of these on the online Study Space site where you've just downloaded this video, so do refer to that. So an activity here is what we've got is this is an essay question. So critically discuss the arguments that we must use systematic and organised processes to elicit knowledge and understanding of primate ecology to inform conservation initiatives. So this is from an anthropology or a zoology degree programme. You can see here that we've got a number of instruction terms and a number of content terms. So your instruction terms would be critically discuss. That's how you're being asked to write about it. So if we refer back to this slide here, we can see we're expected to sort of point out the weak and strong points. It should be a written debate, and we should be supporting our opinion with conclusions with evidence. Okay, so it gives you an idea. That's what I'm being asked to do here. It helps spell it out for you. But if we want to reword it and translate it into words that might actually resonate with us a little bit better, we can use something called synonyms on Word. You can just simply paste the question into a Word document, right click on the word and go under synonyms, and it's like a thesaurus. Do be careful when you're doing that, because if you go too far then you end up with a word that doesn't quite mean what it was supposed to mean. So here we've got critically discuss the arguments that we must use systematic, they've used, and we've thought, well, actually efficient or logical might be better words, and organised, so processes, so methods or procedures could be another word for processes. If it, rather than elicit, we could mean draw out or extract knowledge. And when we talk about conservation initiatives or plans or schemes, so rather than that question we have up there, we could now say critically discuss the arguments that we must use logical methods to draw out knowledge and understanding of primate ecology to inform conservation plans. So if you do it that, it translates it into accessible language that might then help you then have that eureka moment when you go, oh, okay, that's what I'm expected to do. But we're asking questions of this question. We'll be asking things like, well, what do we mean by primate ecology, and what conservation initiatives are we talking about? And when we consider the scope, how many conservation initiatives and what aspects of primate ecology do we need to cover here? And when we talk about discuss the arguments, well, that clearly means then that there must be lots of different opinions here. So there's no point in focusing on just one thing that says, yep, everything's great. We really must use understanding primate ecology to inform conservation issues. Great idea. There's clearly other people that say, actually, that's not such a good idea. But it isn't often black and white like that, so don't always look for the complete opposite answer. A lot of the times when something seems like a blatantly good idea, like this one here, it might be just that people just simply say, well, it is a good idea, but we need to tweak it in this way, or it has problems with regard to this and with regard to that. So always looking for alternatives. So here's another one here. Outline the key tenets of either classicism or positivism. In what way has the theory you have chosen influenced UK penal policy during the last 50 years? Illustrate your answer with examples from criminological literature. So this is a sociology essay. So what we have here is we've got the word outline. We've actually translated out our instruction term into another word here as well, and said, well, okay, we mean describe. So if we think about what the word describe means in terms of our content terms, we know then that it's imperative that we make sure we describe these key principles of positivist theory. So rather than the key tenets, then we're looking at key principles. And it says either classicism or positivism. Well, we've reworded it because we decided we're going to look at positivism instead. So how has positivist theory influenced UK penal policy during the last 50 years? Give examples. So when we're saying illustrate your answer with examples, we're just giving examples that support your answer from criminological sources, literature. So we're just translating it again into slightly different terms to help you understand a bit more clearly what you're expected to do. And here again, we might be asking things like, well, we don't know what the key principles of positive theory are, so we have to find that out first, because how can we possibly think about how that positivist theory has influenced UK penal policy over the last 50 years if we don't know what they are? And during the last 50 years gives us an idea of scope as well. You would not write an essay that's a question in a response to a question like this, where you're focusing on any research done over the last any research policy done over earlier than 50 years ago, because that wouldn't be part of the scope of the essay. In the same sense, when they say in the last 50 years, they also don't mean only look at policies which have been developed within the last 5 years, because then you're limiting your essay in that way. So you must make sure you do what they are asking you to do. So that's enough for that section here. We're now going to go on in this Swimming in the Sea of Journals section to talk a little bit more about the nitty-gritty of actually finding sources and doing your research.